What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the final episode of the How to Dominate Textbook Season with BookMine. Of course, I'm joined here with Victor Gallegos. What's going on, man?
How's it going, Joji? You made it to the fifth video. We all made it to the fifth video. Hopefully by now you've already understood how to buy and really get some really great textbooks. And now we're going to help you even further and actually how to price them. So we're both excited about that. We made it to the last video. Let's get to it.
Okay, great. Two things that we're going to do. We're going to show you some books here that we're really excited about. And that's going to be because these are books that are very healthy in terms of used offer count going into the upcoming seasons. And then second, like Victor mentioned, we're going to talk about pricing strategy. So let's dive right in.
Let's go.
All right, everybody, we're in BookMine. Of course, you're going to come across a number of textbooks where you see the seasonality. What we're going to first try to determine is, are we coming into a season that's healthy? Do we have a book that will probably perform very well because, hey, the supply right now is actually relatively the same or even better than the year before. So I've hand-selected some of those books from BookMine to go ahead and show you that here. Okay, so the first book we're going to look at is called Mid-Latitude Atmospheric Dynamics. What you can see right now is in August, September, the sales rank definitely gets lower. It's interesting. It's not like a stereotypical U. It's kind of like a longer progression here, but it is selling during that period of time. And then also here in January and February where the sales rank gets a little bit lower. But one of the reasons why I picked this book, Victor, is because of the offer. Can you explain why we think this is a healthy offer count for this book?
Okay, so how we see it is if the used offer count is very similar year over year, so basically 365 days ago versus where it is today, we see that as a healthy book. So if it's really close to each other, healthy, right? If it's actually slightly lower, really healthy. And if it's really, really extreme, I mean, go buy that book yesterday, right?
Right,
so
exactly.
That's what we're seeing it, yeah.
So what you can see is the offer count right now is 13. The same day last year was 13. So that tells us, okay, well, if we had 13 offers going into the season last year and this is how it performed, and we also have 13 books going into the season again, then probably somewhat of a similar pattern should happen here. This book from July, August, September, October was essentially $60 year round, or not year round, but during that time. And then you can also see in November, December got low again, but then went right back up for the January season. And what's actually really fascinating about this book, when you go over the Amazon pages, there actually is only one offer that's that cheap, and they all just jump right back up. So you can see that there's only one offer, $21.78. Now, this is a book in acceptable condition. The person's got 100% feedback. I would go ahead and take that gamble because they've got 100% feedback, and X offers are 48 and 53. So this is the sort of target selling range.
Yeah.
So a book right here that we think would be great. Now, what we should also talk about here, Victor, is the pricing strategy. So what do we tend to sort of reference, right, when we're looking at these Keepa graphs? And I'm going to go ahead and show this, Victor, because I know this is something that you definitely like to show in terms of pricing strategy. But kind of what are we looking at right here, and how does this apply to books?
Yeah, I mean, so a lot of people, when they see a Keepa graph, they're just, their eyes glaze over, right? They don't understand what they're seeing. But for some reason, when we show them mountains, they understand that. So we like to see Keepa charts basically have two peaks, right? So when you see like two different peaks, that's a college textbook, and just one peak every year, that's either a Christmas book, depending on where it is, or a high school book. And so right now we're focused in on college books. So you're going to see two different peaks. And so what we're basically letting you know is that this a college book has like a very high peak to it and like a shoulder, right? Basically on each side, right? So when you find a book that is really healthy, you can price it really close to that peak price. So where it's very, very almost like at the very top of that mountain, up there, right? Yep. You can really price up there, and you're probably going to get it because the market conditions are very similar to where it was last year. Right. And so you definitely have a really healthy book. But if you don't have a healthy book, so let's just say you bought a book and now there's a lot more used offer count to it, or the book is slightly dying a little bit more, you're probably going to have to price that book at the shoulder, which is right under the peak. Right. So that's probably where the max price is going to be at this year. And that's the price you're probably wanting to price that book this coming season.
Absolutely. And if that's still not making sense, let's look at an awesome picture of Victor Gallegos here. So this is the peak. See the top of his hair? That's the peak. Ideally, we could sell everything up there at his head, right?
Yeah.
But in reality, we're really aiming for these shoulders. So imagine we're going up on that mountain. Yeah. We're really trying to aim for the shoulders to be profitable. But again, if we have really healthy books, so we can get that hair, that awesome
right up there. Thank you.
You get the top of the peak right there. So going back to this book we just looked at, this is a kind of an interesting one because it almost just kind of plateaus, honestly, which is really interesting. But we would be saying, okay, the shoulders would be a little bit lower than what the peak is. So it looks like the peak is here in the high 50s and low 60s. So we'd say high 40s, low 50s would kind of be the shoulder prices.
Right.
And then the peak prices will be a little bit higher than that. So great book there. Now I wanted to show another book here, Discrete Event Simulation. You can see this book right now you can pick up for right around $30, so $27 plus a little bit of shipping. In September, it's got up to the 70s. January got up to the 70s. Now I'm talking, when I say got up to, I'm talking about the peak, not the shoulder. So what would you say in a book like this, Victor, we would consider as the shoulder price?
On the shoulder price here is probably right there, a little bit farther to the right. Go there, yeah, right there, right around $70, I'd say. Right. So if this book happens to not be a healthy book, which to me looks like to be a healthy book, but if it wasn't a healthy book, I'd probably price it right under that price. So maybe $69.95 would probably be my max price. Right. But this book overall happens to be, I'd probably want to sell it at the peak price. So I would be willing to sell it a little bit higher.
Yep. So you can see right now, offer count's 25 today. 365 days ago, the same day, June 21st, it was, right around 32. So we're looking at slightly below where we were the year before, which is good news. What that means is not only is it likely that we would repeat the pattern, but it might actually even be a little bit better. The peak might be even a little higher. And right, I know we're kind of just jamming a lot of information down your throat. Just think, if you've got a healthy book, shoot for the peak. Right. If you got a book that's, slightly above kind of where you were the previous year, then definitely go for the shoulders, because the shoulders of the previous year very well might be the peak of this next year.
That's right. Yeah.
Right. And one way that you could tell that on some books is if you look at its historical selling data over its entire lifetime, you'll kind of see how every year the peak kind of gets a little bit lower and a little bit lower and a little bit lower, where the shoulder from the previous year becomes the peak of
happens to be the peak the next semester or the next year. Yep, exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, here's a good book I think would be something you should think about buying. Not Victor, but you, like anyone who's a new bookseller, because of the fact that this book is so cheap. We're looking at about $9 to pick up this book here. And again, offer count right now is right around, today we're at, if I zoom in, we're at 43. Same day last year, looks like we are at 41. And then, a couple of days we're at 49. So we're kind of, again,
identical.
Yeah, about identical. And, the peak of this book was basically in the 30s, right? Low 30s.
Yeah.
And same thing here. Shoulders would be kind of mid to high 20s. Peak was at the 30s. But again, we're looking at a book that has done, in terms of offer count, is very similar to the year before. So again,
if it had a higher used offer count, that would definitely be a book I would want to price at the shoulder. But
right.
Since the offer count's right around the same, I'm good with the peak here.
Right. And a little bit later in this video, Victor will show us some college textbooks that have rising offer counts relative to 1 year ago. And that's when we'll definitely say, okay, price definitely lower in that case. Now, the last book that I wanted to share with you is just remember that not every book will have equal seasons in terms of the January and August, September textbook seasons. I mean, the logical reason, Victor, is that, hey, some books are just, for whatever reason, in certain colleges around the United States, they happen only in the winter season. They only happen in January, or they only happen in August, September. So what's the dead giveaway for this book, Victor, that tells you this Latino boom, Latino literature book is actually heavily dominating one season, not the other?
Yeah, I mean, here you can tell that basically the green drops, right?
Yeah.
Are very few there in August and September. I'd say like less than 6-7 of those.
Right.
And then in January, in January, a huge difference there. Lots more sales happening then. And so, this for some reason is a January textbook where lots of colleges for some reason tend to focus in on and teaching this class in January.
And you can see the same thing going back to 2022. Like there's maybe 5 or 6 selling drops August, September, and then coming up into January, you have significantly more. So just remember, like if you were to buy this book, you might, even though, August, September is coming up soon, you might not actually be looking to sell it during that time, Victor, right? You might actually be thinking, oh, I'm going to be planning to sell this during January.
That's right.
So that's just that last thing I want to say. Yeah. Now what we're going to do is jump into some books that are not healthy. Those are going to be books that have rising offer counts relative to last year. And this is going to mean instead of trying to get closer to that peak, we're going to want to be the shoulders, maybe below that. So Victor, with that said, let's go ahead and share your screen.
All right. So we are in BookMine, and I found some college books that actually have a higher used offer count, books that we would at least be a little bit more cautious on purchasing. But even if you purchase them now, it's basically let's see what type of prices do we want to price our books for in the August textbook season. So let's go ahead and click on our first book here. And as you can see pretty quickly here, the used offer count really kind of jumps from where it was before. So we were at, say, 17 last year, 365 days ago. And now we're almost double that, or actually we're double that at 45 used offer count. And Joji, what do you think about a book that has doubled in used offer count? Would you tend to be okay with it? Would you, especially on this particular book, what would you do with that?
This book specifically sells a lot in August, September, and even January, right? So we know there's going to be a lot of demand for this book, but there's way more sellers. So that means definitely in terms of pricing, I'm not going to expect to be able to get the same prices last year as I will this next year. So my thought process here is going back to what we said earlier is those peak price or those shoulder prices from the year below is very likely going to be the peak price of this next year. So my thought process here is, okay, if I were to buy it today, even with that higher offer count, can I be profitable selling it at the shoulder price of the year before? Would you think about that the same way?
Yeah, definitely. So what I'm thinking about this book is, all right, so the current price is $28, and I'm thinking the shoulder price here in August was right around $84. And over here too, right around, I'd say, $89 is probably where the shoulder of both seasons was. So now then I would just basically need to do the calculation. $28, can I buy it at $28 and make a profit selling it at $84? And yeah, just the quick math there, definitely you could do that. So even though we're having a higher used offer count, the used offer count isn't just definitely telling us, it's not a red flag. It's just basically letting us know we're not going to sell it at the $105 peak over here. We're probably going to sell it at 84. And for this particular book, there's no issue here. You can definitely sell it for $84 and still make some good money from it. So if you happen to run into these books that have a higher used offer count, doesn't necessarily mean no. It just means that you're not going to sell it at the peak. You're going to sell it more at the shoulder.
And one important thing, remember, is especially if you're new in this book selling game, there are millions of books, right? There's just on BookMine, there's like 3,000 books roughly every hour. There's going to be better and more opportunities. If you're ever at a point where you're like, you know what, I just really am not sure, then buy one and just experiment and see what happens. We would say go wide rather than deep. All that simply means is take the money that you do have and try to buy maybe like one copy of each book, rather than spend all your money on buying 10 copies of this one book and it all going wrong. It'd be much better, honestly, if you have mostly wins and then some failures under your belt, but if you can get them from different books and you can learn from that first textbook season you go through, the second textbook season you go through, you'll get better and better and better.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so let's go ahead and let's click on the next book here. And one of the kind of giveaways that this year will be a different year for this book than in previous years is because lots of times there will be a new edition out. So the ones that that we're seeing now actually all have the commonality to them is that there's a new edition that has just arrived. And that's usually why the used offer count has tend to spike. And so let's look at this other college textbook here. There's a new edition that just came out. And you can kind of see that in the chart. The used offer count is moving up at this time. And, last year was right around 29, 30, and this year it's at 60. So double the used offer count. But again, that doesn't necessarily mean don't buy it, right? Because there's still a lot of demand that happened both in August and September and in January. Yeah. And so for a book like this, Joji, where the book is, like, say, $9.43, so altogether $13. And in textbook season looks to be at, right around $30 to $40. What would you say? Would you be interested in a book like this?
One thing that I'm already seeing is it looks like potentially that this book can sell way more in January than it would in September, just by looking at how much the offer count dives, right? Yeah. Looking at January. So I would want to, going back to what Victor says, establish a pattern. Can we look at all 1,800 days and see does this book sell? Okay, so it looks like that January, for whatever reason, was kind of a fluke in terms of like it's selling substantially more in terms of the offer count dropping. But again, this is a book that, because of the fact that we have such a high rising offer count and kind of long term, we're kind of at an unprecedented mark. I would definitely, if I were going to buy it, probably just buy one copy. And again, I would think, going back to what I said before, think about the peak from the year before the shoulders from the year before going to be the peak of this upcoming season. And what you'll actually notice is last August, September, the low seas price really didn't go up very much, right? It kind of just stayed stagnant.
It didn't really move.
Right. And so for me, this is something that I probably would pass on. Victor, I don't know what your thoughts are.
I think there's a really positive sign here that January went down so much, but yeah, the fact that August didn't, and we're going into an August season would cause some pause for me. I don't know. I mean, $9, probably not, right? Because I'd buy it for like 13, and the August season was at 27, and that's probably our highest hope. That's where the peak was, and so there's really no money there. So this is the book, but if I had the book, basically, I would be trying to price this at the shoulders, and unfortunately, the shoulders here would probably be right around $20, $20.
Yeah. So if you price at $20 but buy it for 13, you're losing money because of Amazon fees and stuff, right? And the good news about this is it's one book. There's thousands of other books that we can look at, and let's say here's the great thing about BookMine and the great thing about books, anyways. Let's say you do buy this book for $13, even when Victor and I just told you that we probably wouldn't buy it. Well, you might send it in. You still might sell for $30. You might even sell for more than that. Or, it doesn't sell August, September for, let's say, your asking price of $39.99, but then maybe January comes around and then you actually sell it because the same pattern happens from your previous. So the good news about books is that you can make mistakes quite cheaply. And oftentimes you can get bailed out by the fact that even though it's probably a book you shouldn't have bought, you still got away with it, kind of a thing.
That's true.
You still make some money on it.
Yeah. And let's just say you tried to sell it for 35 and actually didn't sell it this August and September. It didn't happen this. You're right. Again, just wait until January and see if you can sell it then. Even worst case scenario, you sell it for $22. You bought it for 13, sell it for 22. You're probably going to lose like $2.
Yeah.
So there's not that you didn't really do anything really wrong by losing $2. You went in, you tried to sell it for a profit, and you did it. You're really not actually risking much by buying and selling this book.
And especially if you view it as this is a lesson learned kind of a thing, and you're paying for your education, that can be very invaluable because it could, make you a better book purchaser into the future. And it's like, hey, let's say you bought it for 13, you end up having to sell it, in the January season, for $22 and you lose $2. Well, you just paid $2 for a really important education, very important lesson. I mean, I think that's something that makes all of us better booksellers. Certainly has made me one over the years because I'm not perfect. Not 100% of the books I buy are going to be sold profitably. It's what can you learn from the books that didn't do well and how can that make you better? But also the books that do well, like what can you learn from those books as well?
It's exactly. It's about going back to seeing, okay, what type of things did I not see before that I now can see? And let's try to not make those same mistakes again.
Yep. I think this is a perfect way to segue into kind of our main point to bring all the, 5 videos from How to Dominate Textbook Season together. And so that final message from the end of this, 5 video series is you've got to actually go buy some books. You cannot just watch these videos and make money. You've actually got to go to BookMine. You've actually got to buy some books and learn from your mistakes. What I can guarantee you is that if you are somebody who's watched the videos and you try to put most of those things that you learned into practice, you're going to be okay. You're going to do a good job. You still will make mistakes. There's no way you can get 100% out of everything that we told you, nor would we expect that. We want you to get the general gist, right?
Right.
What are some of the main gists? Oh, don't buy a book that has an insanely high offer count from last year, or don't buy a book when Rock City has 150 copies on it, right? Those are sort of the general things, but you will make mistakes, and that's completely okay. As long as you're doing it cheaply. And again, you will get some wins, and all you need to do is rinse and repeat the wins. So,
exactly. I want to follow on there, Joji. Take action.
Yeah.
Just go. There's over 100,000 college textbooks out there, and it's time to be buying them now. We're in the valley right now. Go in and buy college textbooks when you're seeing two peaks, and we're in the valley right now. It's pretty simple to see, buy down here, sell up there. And, we're already giving you a lot of advice, a lot of guidance. Just go and take action, and, you'll be a happy camper here or a happy miner. How about that? Happy miner by the end of August. So, go take action, and we'll both be happy that you did it.
Yep. And then lastly, before we leave, just remember that after the August, September textbook season, comes a next couple of months where you again reach that valley to the next textbook season in January. So it's going to be quicker here because the time between August and January is shorter than the time between January and August. So just know that take what you've learned, hopefully take some of the piles of cash, pile of dollars that you are able to mine, and plow that into more textbooks. So again, every textbook season you'll be better. And Victor and I have been through 14 textbook seasons now. We've been through a lot, right? So there's a reason why we feel confident in this. And again, there's even no way that we could be 100% every book that we buy, but you don't need to be. You don't need to be 100% on every book, right?
We actually did some math, Joji. We're like 65%. As long as you're 65% correct, that's failing in school.
Yeah, that's
65% here. You will win this game. Just be 65% right. That's it. That's where you got to be at to succeed in this because the margins are that high.
Because those, let's say 35% of the books that don't do well, those are the ones that you're only making a couple dollars on. You're breaking even, you're losing a couple dollars. But the winners, some of those winners could be huge. You're like, well, I bought 3 copies of this book. I made $35 off each copy.
Oh, exactly.
That's what we're talking about. Right?
Did it.
So we hope that you really enjoyed this series. In the comment section below, let us know in the future, right? If you bought some of these books and sold them, like, did you make money? I'm hoping you really did. But we will see you on some future BookMine videos, and have a good one. See ya.
Bye.